Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy Jack OATz to go. You either know or you don't. So today I'm gonna go over two topics. Neither one should take that long to go over, but there's something that was kind of bugging me this whole time, where we have the Triad trying to open up the gates of the Clipot, and this would release demons day by day, going by the clip. And the one thing I do want to clarify, because I think there is confusion, is that even though Noct shows that there are, I think there was 11 demons on his chart through the tree, it's not just one demon that resides there. That is the demon that rules over that domain of hell. So with this demon coming out, with this devil, coming out, then these other devils, smaller league devils, would crawl out with it because the seal is open. So remember when Liebe got thrown at the ceiling of one of those places in the Clipot, that was the seal, and we saw that he was getting bullied by a lot of lesser demons. But there was a devil that ruled over that domain. So I do want to make that pretty clear. So when we talk about different demons, like Lilith in the first two Clipots, that means that whatever Lilith is associated with, then the demons there would also have similar attributes and traits as well. So there would be other Liliths/Liliths where she rules, and also he rules, since Lilith and Lilith are androgynous beings. But I do want to do that. But we're going to talk about Noct once again. Noct is just proving to be a really interesting, dynamic character, and he truly is, if we stick to this theme of cards in Black Clover, he truly is a wild card. With all this lore that Tabata uses, mainly Kabbalistic and Norse lore, he sprinkles cosmology within his writing, but a lot of Norse lore in Kabbalistic lore is overlapped with a lot of other lore from different regions of the world. So it's really hard to get a fine grasp on exactly what Tabata wants to write. But this does give him the ability to go almost anywhere with the story and build upon these lore. But in this particular video, I wanted to kind of touch on the devils that Noct uses. And like I was saying, something bothered me where the Triad is trying to open the seals of the Clipot, and this would free the demons day by day, and somehow his devils don't seem to mind helping him stop this plan from coming to fruition, which would be counterproductive in the grand scheme of things for them. So why help Noct? And this is where things started getting kind of weird for me, because that's like, imagine if what's an example I can use? Imagine, okay, let's use a real life example. Imagine, they're slaves back in the day, working for their master, and then all of a sudden, let's say they want to go to war with their homeland. Will they do it? Maybe, probably, I don't know. It depends, right? It depends on what the stakes are, really, but it's counterproductive, because do they actually want to fight a war against people of their own kind, people that they would love necessarily? No, not really. And in this particular case, when we're talking about devils, Liebe specifically describes that this is not a place anyone really wants to be. There's a pecking order, and if you're a lesser demon, yeah, you could be higher than another devil, but there's going to be one above you that's kicking the crap out of you. So it's probably in every devil's best interest to get out of there so that they can all just bully on humans, right? Like they all want to, like Liebe says. So again, why are these four devils helping Nox keep the seals closed? It doesn't really make sense. But there are some things that I found. So if you've watched my other videos, Noct has a lot of paganistic background that derives from the Wiccan religion. So I just wanted to shed another light on Nox's demons in this video. So Noct shows Asta how to form a union with Liabe, but Noct starts us off with showing us that his devils are channeled via the artifacts on his necklace. And it strikes me as odd because we now see that devil users have some type of physical marking like we see with the Triad and now with Asta and Liabe. This observation could be completely turned on its head, of course, because Noct could easily have markings on his body and we just can't see it because he's got long sleeve turtleneck, pants, and boots. But when explaining the union, why show the artifacts and not the markings signifying the union between devil and human? And before I get into this, I just want to preface by saying that I don't doubt these are devils, but there is lore that may suggest that they weren't always devils. So if you listen to my recent videos on Noct, then you already understand that there are a lot of paganistic elements to his characters, but most specifically to that of the Holly King, otherwise known as the Horned Deity. In pagan lore, practitioners have what they call familiars, sometimes referred to as familiar spirits. These were believed to be supernatural entities that aided witches in the practice of magic. According to records, they could manifest in many forms, but usually as an animal, which is kind of what we see here. And when they served witches, they were thought to be malevolent, but were considered benevolent when working with what they call cunning folks, which are just essentially healers in a sense, or shaman. But there are ambiguities in both cases. The former were often categorized as demons, while the latter were thought of as fairies. So one interesting thing that I also came across in researching this is that whatever category these fall in, these spirits never actually meant harm to anyone. They were, for the most part, benevolent, and they existed in this realm. I forget what they call it, but it's both chaos and peace, if you will. It's not hell, it's not heaven, it's not the middle. It's this separate realm that they live in that embodies both of these concepts in a perfect union. So I'm wondering if the disinterest in voicing their concern over not stopping the gates of Klipot from being opened is maybe because they don't have a stake in the game, and rather they live on another plane that we don't know about. And that's just one way we can go. I'm going to get into another part of this when we talk about this next subject. But I do want to introduce the thought of what are called Agathions. I'm going to say Agathions. Now, Agathions were prominent in British folklore, and they were shown as humans with light-colored eyes or as animals with a soft glow around their bodies. They were even said to change into a talisman that a poor farmer could use in exchange for money. They were small spirits. They were about bringing good out of people, and they never intended to harm anyone in any way, like I just said. They can even change their shape into a magic ring that will grant the wearer whatever they wish, or a talisman. And this brought up something really interesting to consider, like we see with the magic stones. Could this be, spirits embodied in these stones to perform whatever task that they are known for doing in the physical realm? Just something to think about. But overall, Agathions are not often heard of, and many people who research these myths and legends don't even know what they are. they are the small sprites that have lost footing in the world of Greek and British mythology. So this could really have no foothold in the story whatsoever. But like I say in a lot of my videos, I don't necessarily mean to be right all the time. I miss a lot of the time. But I do think, if anything, they're really fun to look into, because Tabata doesn't write this just willy-nilly. He's very intentional, and when you look into the stuff that he writes, it has a lot of background to it in a lot of ways. So it's really fun to look into this, even if it doesn't come out to be true. But I do kind of get this feeling that these devils specifically are not devils. I would more like to call them spirits, or Agathions even, seems to fit the bill, because when we look at the devils Liebe talks about, these devils are monsters. They don't really have these animalistic traits. They're just monsters. And then we look at the devils that we've seen, like Zagrid, and we see Liebe, we see the silhouette of the rest. They don't really seem to have animalistic traits either. So why are these devils different? So just something to think about. I do think there are some paganistic background with Nox's family, and this is going to bring me into the next topic. Now, Broku no, I call it Broku no Hero, but it's not just Broku, right? Actually beat me to the punch. I was writing a theory video on my thoughts on who Asta's father is, and a possible relation to Nox and or his brother, and the fact that Nox and or his brother could have been adopted into this family. But since Broku, he really covered these points super well, so I don't think it's necessary for me to go over these, and most of you who follow me are already subscribed to Broku anyway, so you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But I do want to say some things that I personally think when we go with this theory of Nox being somehow related to Asta. Now, if you go back to my last video on Nox and Mephistopheles, I tell you guys that Mephistopheles is correspondent to Jupiter, and not only that, he's regarded as one of the 7 great dukes of hell. And when you take those two pieces of information and couple it with Norse mythology and the Kabbalah, then you see that Astaroth is the one that corresponds with Jupiter, and Astaroth is also one of the 7 great dukes of hell. Now, when you take the story of Faust selling his soul and being met up with Mephistopheles, if you replace Mephistopheles, the name at least, with Astaroth, then what you have is that Astaroth, being in the Klipoth that he is correspondent to being part of the Devourers or the Breakers. And Astaroth, in some lore, is known to be good in nature. He's good to a fault, and really spreads himself thin for being too kind. And like I said, within that lore with Mephistopheles, Mephistopheles tells Faust not to go through with the deal because Mephistopheles, it's kind of alludes to him befalling this fate that Faust did, where he sort of made this deal and was, once the deal was up, was trapped in his own personal hell, where he had to bring down corrupted souls for Lucifer. And this is something neither Faust or Mephistopheles wanted to do. Now, let's say that this is Astaroth. There's a point that Broku brings up with, with Lucida, where how is she able to conceive a child? How is she able to have sex, right? And if the person that she coupled with was a devil, then it can make sense because this person has no life energy to sap from, so he'd be okay. And then there's the fact that Nox is tasked with or not task, excuse me, but he tells Asta that he's been watching Asta's journey, and it shows Asta as a child, and then also him receiving this grimoire, right? So what if Noct is serving, not really serving Astaroth, but partnered with Astaroth, and Astaroth asked Noct to look over Asta as he's growing, and if we want to note like the horns on Asta, someone noted on one of Broku's Twitter posts that they look similar to Gimadello's, and that is true. They do look more similar to that than it does to like someone of Lucifero, and I'm wondering if this is due to either Gimadello actually being Astaroth, or rather Astaroth is just channeling his magic through Noct and or Asta, since Asta would be the actual blood-related relative, right? And to throw a little razzle-dazzle on this, let's say that these devils that Noct has are a part of the Qliphoth, and they're not arguing with this agenda of stopping the releasing of the seals because there's a conflict within Qliphoth where Astaroth is, like I said, is known to be good to a fault almost. So if Lucifer wants the gates opened, it would damn the realm of the living. And if Astaroth is good, then he could be fighting against the forces of Lucifer within the Qliphoth, which would explain why these devils don't seem to mind helping Noct at all, or for at least what we see for the time being. And let's also throw a little more spice on this and say Astaroth is another Jotun within the tree of death. Then we have a Jotun civil war, which also leads to the second Ragnarok. It's what led to the first Ragnarok in lore. So these are some things I wanted to just kind of throw in. I've got to go. I've got to head back into work for a bit. So you guys let that rock in your heads. I think it's a really interesting concept to look at if Noct is affiliated with Astaroth in this way, because then this would set this whole Jotun thing in full effect. And we also see that Tabata says that there's going to be not Tabata, but one of the editors said there's going to be an overseas art. And I mean, we've been saying, me and Broku have been saying that Jotun are probably in the story and they're probably over the seas. So this could really put us in to the next part of this and actually actualize Jotun within the story. But that's all I want to say for now. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section below or on Twitter. Doesn't matter. But this has been Jack OATz to go. You either know or you don't.